Revealed, 7 incredible miraculous truths behind iconic Bible stories that transformed faith. In the 3rd year of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, in the land of Midian, a humble shepherd named Moses found himself grappling with the threads of his identity. This seemingly ordinary man was, in fact, woven from the fabric of 2 worlds. Born a Hebrew yet raised within the opulence of Pharaoh's palace, he was a paradox between the privilege of royalty and the plight of his people enslaved in Egypt. As the relentless sun beat down upon the arid landscape, casting shimmering waves over the rocky terrain, Moses tended his flocks beneath the rugged peaks of Mount Horeb. Each gentle bleat of the sheep resonated with his silent longings. The vast sky enveloped him, yet he felt deeply alone, haunted by visions of a people suffering under Pharaoh's cruel hand. Here, amidst the lonely hills, he thirsted for purpose. On that fateful afternoon, as he led his sheep to richer pastures, a flame erupted at the base of Mount Horeb, captivating his gaze. It was no ordinary fire, it pulsed and flickered, yet the thornbush from which it sprung remained unscathed. Moses, heart racing and spirit stirred, approached this miraculous sight with trepidation. Little did he know, the very air around him thickened with divine presence. "Moses! Moses!" echoed a voice from the flames, overpowering the stillness that had enveloped him. "Here I am," he replied, heart pounding, a mixture of fear and anticipation flooding his veins. The voice of the Lord reverberated through the arid air, rich with authority, yet filled with compassion. God unveiled a divine calling to Moses that day, a mission to liberate the Israelites from the yoke of bondage, a promise of a new beginning for his people. Yet as the urgency of his task settled upon him, Moses felt dwarfed by the enormity of the calling. "Who am I that I should go to Pharaoh and bring the children of Israel out of Egypt?" he protested, grappling with insecurities that rose like a tempest in his soul. God's reply was profound, "But I will be with you." Those words ignited a flicker of hope, a trembling response to divine promise. Nevertheless, doubt intertwined with the fabric of his thoughts. Could he truly confront the very embodiment of power and oppression? Would the Israelites even believe he was sent by God? Before we continue with this incredible biblical account, I want to make sure you don't miss any of these powerful scripture stories. Click the bell icon and select All Notifications. These biblical narratives have transformed countless lives throughout history. If God's word through this story is blessing you, please like and share with someone who needs to hear about God's faithfulness today. Tell me in the comments, which biblical story has most impacted your faith journey? I'm always amazed how God's word speaks to hearts across generations. Now let's continue with what the Lord did next. As he returned to his flock, wrestling with the gravity of his calling, visions of plagues, a parted sea, and liberation flooded his mind. Yet Moses was acutely aware of the peril awaiting him. The hope of freedom for his people lay heavy upon his spirit, and the suffocating fear of failure threatened to engulf him. Could he defy Pharaoh? Would the cries of his people resonate in his heart enough to propel him forward? In the midst of the flames of that burning bush, Moses faced a choice, one that echoed through time and into eternity. Would he accept the mantle of divine purpose, or allow the shadows of doubt to extinguish the fire ignited within? As God's voice faded into the wilderness, a profound silence enveloped him, leaving Moses with a lingering question that would determine the fate of nations. Could he rise and embrace the calling that had been set before him, stepping boldly into the unknown? As the mountains loomed over him, casting long shadows in the afternoon light, Moses knelt in contemplation, the weight of his calling heavy on his shoulders. His heart echoed with the cries of his people, the Israelites, who toiled mercilessly under the harsh rule of Pharaoh. Among the rustling leaves and the distant bleating of his flock, the Lord's words throbbed in his mind, igniting a fire within, a desire for liberation, for justice. "Surely, they will not believe me," Moses murmured to himself, the words tasting bitter like ashes. Fear gnawed at his resolve, as he envisioned the might of Pharaoh's court, the unyielding guards, and the unshakable authority that loomed over him like a tempest. How could he, a mere shepherd, approach such power with a voice forged from the cries of the weak? But with a fierce resolve, Moses stood and returned to the burning bush, drawn again to the divine presence that had called him. "Lord," he said, his voice trembling as he gazed into the radiant flames, "what shall I say to them? When they ask, 'What is his name?' How shall I answer?" The flames roared, flickering brighter as the voice of God poured forth like a torrential river. "I am who I am. Thus you shall say to the children of Israel, 'I am has sent me to you.'" With those words, an unmistakable authority filled the air, shaking Moses to his core. "Tell them of my covenant," the Lord continued, "and of the promise I made to their forefathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob." The revelation began to quell Moses' trepidation. The God of his fathers, the God of all creation, had chosen him, he equipped him with the name that holds power and legacy. Yet doubts clawed at him once more. "But behold, I am not eloquent, I am slow of speech and slow of tongue." As he faltered, the Lord's response resounded, filled with divine compassion yet strict urgency. "Who has made man's mouth? Or who makes the mute, the deaf, the seeing, or the blind? Is it not I, the Lord? Now therefore, go, and I will be with your mouth and teach you what you shall say." Moses' heart struggled against the burden of his fear and his past. Memories flooded his mind of his upbringing, the brokenness of his people, and the fateful day he struck down an Egyptian. Would they trust him? Would they follow him? With trembling hands, he stammered, "Oh, Lord, please send someone else." At this, the anger of the Lord flared, yet his compassion remained. "Aaron, your brother, shall be your spokesman. You shall be as God to him, and he shall speak for you to the people." The mercy of the Lord enveloped Moses like a mantle, softening his heart, for he felt the Lord's presence like a balm against his fears. Understanding began to bloom within him like the first light of dawn. He realized that this mission was not solely his to bear. Alongside him, Aaron would stand, as a trusted companion in the undertaking. Moses turned away from the burning bush, filled with a newfound courage coursing through his veins. He felt as if he were no longer merely a shepherd of sheep but now a shepherd of a nation, a chosen vessel in the hands of the Almighty. The path ahead was perilous and uncertain, yet the promise of God echoed in his heart, "I will deliver my people." And so, with the grains of faith beginning to outweigh his fears, Moses took his first step toward Egypt, the land of his past, but also the land of his people's hope. The question lingered in Moses' mind: what miraculous wonders would accompany him on this divine mission? The chapters to come would reveal an unfolding tapestry of transformation, one that would not only free a people but also confirm the sovereign plan of God in ways yet unseen. Moses journeyed toward Egypt, a man burdened yet emboldened by the call of God. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden rays upon the earth, his heart drew closer to the promise of freedom for his people. The weight of his mission pressed heavily, and with each step, he turned the Lord's words over in his mind: "I am with you." Approaching a small shelter near a well, weariness enveloped him, and he paused to rest. His mind danced with visions of his people, laboring under the unforgiving whip of slavery. Could it be that he, a fugitive, could summon the courage to lead them toward deliverance? In the stillness of the evening, he prayed fervently, "Lord, strengthen my resolve. Grant me favor in the eyes of the Israelites and their oppressor." As night descended, the stars twinkled in a vast expanse, and the voice of God broke through the silence, clear and unwavering. "I have heard the cries of my people. Just as I was with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, so too will I be with you, Moses. You are my chosen instrument to accomplish my sovereign will." Emboldened, Moses resumed his journey, recalling the words of his father-in-law, Jethro, who had once entrusted him to lead the flock faithfully. Now, Moses would lead the flock of Israel, a nation longing for deliverance. Arriving at the edges of Egypt, he steeled himself, envisioning Aaron's encouraging face beside him. The next day, as the sun rose, Moses and Aaron met under the shadow of the palatial courts. Their feet, cloaked in dust, carried them forth as they stood before Pharaoh, the embodiment of earthly power. With a deep breath, Moses spoke, a humble yet authoritative voice echoing through the halls of glimmering gold, "Thus says the Lord God of Israel, let my people go, that they may hold a feast to me in the wilderness." Pharaoh's expression darkened, and he laughed with derision. "Who is the Lord, that I should obey his voice? I know not the Lord, neither will I let Israel go." A shiver passed through Moses as he felt the weight of fierce opposition. Yet, the Lord had forewarned him that this would not be an easy task. "Because you will not release them, the Lord shall bring forth plagues upon you and your land," Moses declared boldly, his heart pounding in his chest. The words resounded with conviction, and he was filled with an otherworldly strength even in the face of harsh scorn. Pharaoh, unmoved by the warning, commanded Moses and Aaron to leave. "You are but weary men," he sneered. The heavy doors of the palace closed behind them, sealing their fate for the moment. As they walked away, Moses' heart sank under the weight of despair. "Lord, why have you caused this evil to fall upon your people?" But almost immediately, a clarion word came upon him once again. "Through the hardship, I will reveal my power. Your obedience, though met with contempt, will lead to wonders and might before the eyes of both Israel and Egypt." In the days that followed, Moses bore witness to the hardness of Pharaoh's heart, and he felt the unfolding tapestry of God's plan begin to manifest. Each evening, the Lord met with him again, revealing the plagues that would be unleashed, transforming water to blood, bringing forth frogs, gnats, and flies. As divine signs began to entwine with human rebellion, a mystery loomed over the land. How would God's intention unfold? Would deliverance arise from the very trial that sought to suppress it? The air thickened with anticipation as history stood on the brink of change. What transformations awaited the hearts of both the oppressor and the oppressed? The faith of Moses would soon be tested beyond comprehension, amidst the crescendo of divine power ready to shake the foundations of Egypt. The sovereign plan of God was weaving through every painful moment, bearing the scent of redemption with each sound and sight about to unfold. And it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Moses at the dawn of another day. "Go to Pharaoh, for I have hardened his heart and the heart of his servants, that I might show these signs of mine before him, and that you may tell in the hearing of your son and your son's son the mighty things I have done in Egypt, and my signs which I have done among them, that you may know that I am the Lord." With holy resolve, Moses and Aaron approached Pharaoh once more. This time, they bore the weight of divine prophecy upon their shoulders. "Let my people go," Moses intoned, his voice echoing authority. "For if you refuse, behold, the hand of the Lord will be against your livestock in the field." Pharaoh's arrogance glinted in his eyes. "And who is this Lord that I should regard him?" he boasted, impervious to the heavens' warning. Yet, as the sun settled into the heavens above, the Lord executed his word. A great plague swept across Egypt, striking down the cattle of the Egyptians, while the livestock of the children of Israel remained unharmed. In disbelief and fury, Pharaoh's heart hardened, and he summoned his advisers, seeking to understand the devastation wrought by the God of Israel. "What is this God who has power over our land?" he demanded, his voice trembling with uncertainty. The wise men whispered amongst themselves, recounting the wonders of the Hebrew God, even as Pharaoh's pride took hold deeper within his soul. But the Lord was not finished revealing his might. Days passed, and new trials followed as plagues came forth like waves crashing upon a shore. Moses stood firm before Pharaoh, reminding him, "You have seen the Lord's power displayed before you. Will you not humble yourself and let my people go?" The Lord sent forth plagues of boils that caused great suffering among the Egyptians. Still, Pharaoh's resolve did not waver, and his heart grew more obstinate. Each sign was a testimony to the power of God, an invitation to surrender, yet Pharaoh remained unyielding as darkness clouded his judgment. Then came the hail, which rained down with furious might, striking the land like thunder against a mountain. Moses stood amongst the people, and they witnessed this divine judgment, a tangible manifestation of God's fury against oppression. Amidst the storm, the cries of the people rose to the heavens, lamenting their suffering and yearning for liberation. As Moses interceded for Pharaoh, he declared, This time I will send all my plagues upon your people and on your servants and on your people, that you may know there is none like me in all the earth. And as Moses spoke, the air crackled with the tension of divine confrontation, a demonstration of unmatched power set against human pride. Night descended, yet the land shuddered under the weight of the unfolding events. Each plague became a testimony, a harbinger of the ultimate deliverance just ahead. Yet still, the hardness of Pharaoh's heart sent ripples of turmoil through the land. God's purpose, however, remained resolute. From one heart, salvation would be birthed for many. Moses, witnessing these mighty acts, pondered in his heart, what lay ahead for the Israelites? Would their faith sustain them through the trials ahead? What would become of Egypt, a land ruled by arrogance and blinded by pride? The question hung in the air like the gathering storm clouds, leaving a profound mystery in its wake. But beyond the storm, amidst the plagues, a sovereign plan was brewing, a plan of deliverance as remarkable as the plagues themselves, leading toward an exodus that would echo into eternity. Would the night of liberation shine even brighter than the darkest hour? And it came to pass, after the fury of the hail had subsided, that the Lord spoke to Moses again, saying, "Go to Pharaoh, and tell him, Thus says the Lord, God of the Hebrews, let my people go, that they may serve me. For if you refuse to let them go, and continue to hold them, behold, the hand of the Lord will be upon your cattle in the field, upon the horses, the donkeys, the camels, and upon the oxen, and upon the sheep, a very grievous murrain." Moses carried the message with a heavy heart, knowing the depth of rebellion that still dwelled within Pharaoh. As he spoke, the air hung thick with expectation and dread. "I say to you, my Lord, the God of Israel commands you, release his people, or face the dire consequences that will follow. Might you consider the manifestations of his power?" But Pharaoh's arrogance was more resolute than ever. He mocked Moses, insisting he would not yield to a God he had decided did not exist. "Let your God show his power again, and perhaps then I shall reconsider," he taunted harshly. As twilight deepened, the Lord fulfilled his word, and an unseen hand wielded judgment over the livestock of the Egyptians. Plagues descended upon the flocks, and they succumbed to the grievous illness, while the cattle of the Israelites remained untouched, a sign unmistakable of the Lord's favor upon his people. The cries of anguish soon filled the land, as the livestock lay lifeless across the fields, devastating the heart of Egypt. Pharaoh, restless and distraught, sent for Moses, desperate to heed the warning yet unwilling to bend. "Pray to your God," he pleaded, "that he may take away the plague from me, and I shall let the people go." In prayer, Moses interceded, invoking the name of the Lord, and the murrain was lifted according to God's word. However, once again, as Pharaoh regained his strength, his heart grew hard, and he withdrew his promise. This back and forth of prayer and refusal weighed heavily on Moses' spirit. The trials were but a reflection of the stubbornness that clung tightly to Pharaoh. Seeing the Pharaoh's resolve, the Lord spoke once more to Moses, "Yet one more plague will I bring upon Pharaoh and Egypt. After that, he will let you go, he will drive you out completely." In that moment, a prophecy clarified in Moses' heart, the final act was upon the horizon, and the destiny of his people would soon unfold. The Lord instructed Moses to gather the elders and relay the command of a perfect lamb. "Speak to the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th of this month they shall take to themselves a lamb for each household. The lamb must be without blemish, a male of the first year. This would be the sign for their deliverance, the sacrifice that would pass over them, shielding them from judgment." The preparation for liberation had begun, as the clock ticked closer to the moment of their exodus. As dawn broke, the children of Israel would prepare not just for escape, but for the fulfillment of a promise made to their forefathers. Would their faith save them from the darkness, and would they find safety in the blood of the Lamb? In that tender hour, the threads of God's sovereign purpose intertwined through the obedience of Moses, the plight of his people, and the hardness of Pharaoh's heart, a divine choreography unfolding towards ultimate redemption. The stage was set for a deliverance that would resound through generations yet to come, revealing the depth of God's love and the unfathomable mystery of his plans. And the Lord spoke to Moses, declaring, speak to all the congregation of Israel, saying, On the 10th day of this month, each man shall take for himself a lamb, according to the house of his father, a lamb for a household. And if the household is too small for the lamb, let him and his neighbor next to his house take it according to the number of the persons, according to each man's need you shall make your count for the lamb. Moses, filled with the gravity of God's command, called the elders of Israel together. Gather around, for the Lord has given us specific instructions, he urged. This lamb, chosen meticulously, is not merely for sustenance but is the very vessel of our salvation. Each family selected their lamb, checking for blemish, gazing upon its purity, knowing that this sacrifice would shield them from the wrath descending upon Egypt. You shall keep it until the 14th day of the month. Then the whole assembly of the congregation of Israel shall kill it at twilight, Moses instructed, the weight of impending destiny pressing upon him like a mantle. Throughout the land of Goshen, the dissonance of despair soon turned to hushed anticipation. The Israelites were drawn together by faith, united in the hope that their obedience would bring forth deliverance. In their homes, they prepared bitter herbs as Moses commanded, their hearts resolute as they pondered the solemnity of their task. Meanwhile, in the palace of Pharaoh, the tension was palpable. His heart remained unchanged, resolute against yielding. Who is this Lord that I should obey his voice? He sneered, yet a flicker of doubt crossed his mind as he noted the growing disarray among his own people, the echoes of grief reverberating against the hollow walls of his court. On the appointed night, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Moses stood before the assembly. Take the blood of the lamb and apply it to the doorposts and the lintel of your homes. For when the Lord sees the blood, he will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you. A hush fell over the crowd, sobering the hearts of the faithful. In this blood, a promise echoed, deliverance intertwined with sacrifice, protection resting in obedience. And you shall eat the flesh on that night, roasted in fire, with unleavened bread and bitter herbs. Eat it in haste, for it is the Lord's Passover. The families gathered within their homes, the blood painted upon the doorframes shone like a beacon against the darkness. Shouts of mourning erupted even before the hour of judgment, a grim prelude to the divine confrontation that awaited. At midnight, the very heartbeat of Egypt was stilled, all that was firstborn of man and beast was struck down, as the anguished cries of despair rang through the streets. Yet, in the houses of the Israelites, there was peace. A divine shield had enveloped them, confirming God's faithfulness to his promise. With dawn's first light, Pharaoh rose in turmoil and summoned Moses, his resolve shattered. Rise, go forth from among my people, both you and the children of Israel, he ordered, trembling yet emboldened by his desperation. And serve the Lord as you have said. Thus the children of Israel, their burdens lifted, were propelled toward freedom, a fulfillment of God's covenant echoing through generations. They departed laden not only with riches but with the promise of a new dawn. Yet as they journeyed forth, a whisper of greater providence lingered in the air. For God was weaving a story far beyond mere escape, his purpose unfurled toward the coming of the Lamb that would take away the sins of the world. Little did they know, the cry of deliverance would resonate into eternity, shaping the faith of countless hearts. And a question resounded in their spirits: what greater plan was God unfolding through the blood of the Lamb? Now the children of Israel set forth from the land of bondage, their spirits ignited with hope and gratitude. Yet amid their joyful exodus, Moses, the servant of the Lord, turned to the people with words filled with solemn purpose. Do not forget this day, for it is a day of deliverance. Mark it in your hearts and in your generations. You shall celebrate the Passover unto the Lord as a lasting ordinance, for by his mighty hand we have been set free. As they journeyed, the land of Goshen, once a place of sorrow, faded behind them. They approached the edge of the wilderness, where the vast expanse of the desert awaited. In the dawning light, the Lord provided guidance through a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, a supernatural beacon guiding them forward. The people marveled, saying, "What is this that the Lord has done? His hand is upon us." Yet shadows of uncertainty arose in their hearts. The wilderness loomed vast and desolate, a barren expanse fraught with trials. The cries of hunger soon echoed among the multitude, and they lamented, "Would that we had died in the land of Egypt, for there we sat by the pots of meat and ate our fill." Moses, approached by their complaints, sought the face of the Lord. The merciful heart of God responded, "Behold, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people shall go out and gather a day's portion every day, that I may test them whether they will walk in my law or not." And lo, the next morning, as the dew lifted, flakes like frost covered the ground. The people gazed in wonder and inquired, "What is it?" For they did not understand. Moses exclaimed, "It is the bread which the Lord has given you to eat. Gather what you need, an omer for each person." In their newfound communion with God, the divine gift satisfied their hunger and strengthened their faith. Yet, the Lord also instructed, "Gather twice as much on the 6th day, for the 7th is a day of rest, a holy Sabbath unto the Lord." As the weeks wore on, the people were tested in obedience. Some gathered too much, while others gathered too little, and yet, miraculously, every man had enough for his family, proving the Lord's sufficiency in every need. Each morsel served as a testament of his provision, a reflection of his faithfulness amidst uncertainty. Then arose a different challenge: thirst. They found themselves encamped at Rephidim, where there was no water, and their trust wavered. "Why have you brought us out of Egypt to die of thirst?" they cried against Moses. Broken in heart, he turned to the Lord in distress. The Lord spoke, "Take the rod with which you struck the Nile, and go forth. Behold, I will stand before you upon the rock at Horeb. You shall strike the rock, and water shall flow forth." So it was that Moses, in obedience, struck the rock with the rod, and life-giving water gushed forth. The people drank and were refreshed, yet still their hearts were hardened, turning from faith to doubt with each unfolding trial. As they traveled onward, each miracle was both a blessing and a lesson, revealing the character of the God who walked among them. He was showing them that he was not merely a God of their escape from Egypt but a God who would sustain them in the wilderness, leading them to a land flowing with milk and honey. And as the journey continued, the promise lingered in the heart of Moses, a seed of hope for an eternal promise, "For I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brothers, I will put my words in his mouth, and he shall speak to them all that I command him." Thus the stage was set, a divine preparation leading toward the climax of redemption. For within every trial, God's sovereign plan was poised to reveal the depths of his love through a sacrifice that would surpass all others, a sacrifice that would bring forth his eternal kingdom. What would this chosen prophet reveal, and how would his coming forever alter the course of history? And they continued their journey in the wilderness, yet the grip of doubt tightened upon their hearts like an oppressive burden. The people groaned, casting blame upon Moses and against the God who had delivered them. "Is the Lord among us or not?" they cried, their voices tinged with despair. Moses, the faithful servant, fell upon his knees before the Lord, seeking counsel amid the rising tide of discontent. And the Lord said to him, "Gather the elders of Israel and let them witness the signs that I will perform. I shall give you more than bread and water, I will give you my covenant." In obedience, Moses called forth the elders and shared with them the words of the Lord, filling them with the hope of promise and assurance. "Behold, the Lord your God will establish a covenant. He shall take you to himself as a people. You shall be a kingdom of priests and a holy nation." Thus they pressed onward, emboldened by the holy assurance that God was with them, though trials still lay ahead. Upon reaching Sinai, the very mountain of God, the people were summoned to consecrate themselves. "Prepare your hearts," Moses declared, "for on the 3rd day, the Lord will descend upon this mountain." As dawn broke on the 3rd day, the heavens unveiled their splendor. Thunder rumbled like mighty drums, and lightning danced across the sky. The mountain trembled, shrouded in thick smoke, for the presence of the Almighty had come down in power. The people stood at a distance, trembling in reverence, yet filled with awe. The sound of the trumpet pierced the air, echoing through the valley, drawing them closer to the God who had freed them. "Do not be afraid," Moses assured them, "for God has come to test you, and that his fear may be before you, that you may not sin." And God spoke from the mountain, giving his commandments, I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. You shall have no other gods before me. His words reverberated through the people's very souls, and they were compelled to respond, saying, All that the Lord has spoken, we will do. Yet the journey was fraught with further trials. As they wandered, their hearts turned once more towards the flesh pots of Egypt. Would that we had meat to eat! They cried, and in their discontent, they longed for the days of captivity. Moses, a man burdened by the weight of their complaints, brought their cries before the Lord. I am not able to bear all this people alone, they are too heavy for me. He lamented. The Lord, in his tremendous grace, instructed Moses, Gather 70 elders of Israel, for I will take of the Spirit that is on you and put it upon them, that they may bear the burden with you. With the Spirit of God resting upon them, the elders prophesied, and the people saw visions of the promised land, stirring hope within their hearts and filling their souls with fervor. But still, the murmurs of disbelief persisted, a reminder of the struggle between faith and rebellion that resided within them. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the lessons learned in each moment became a roadmap guiding their steps. The visible hand of God was amongst them, providing and shaping them as a people. And as they stood upon the brink of the promised land, the Lord whispered to Moses, Yet I will bring an even greater deliverance. For a greater deliverer shall arise, to fulfill the law and the prophets, who will lead not only this generation but all generations into the rest of my presence. Thus, the tension mounted as they awaited the revelation of the one who would change everything. What would this deliverer accomplish, and how would his coming fulfill the very essence of their hope? As they lingered at the base of the holy mountain, a profound stillness enveloped the people, yet their hearts remained restless. The air crackled with the echoes of divine decree, and the memory of his thunderous voice still reverberated within their spirits. Woven into the fabric of this sacred moment was the weight of their covenant with the Almighty. Moses, with his face aglow from the glory of God, ascended the mountain once more. Lord, he beseeched, what more do you desire of this people? And God answered him, saying, Go down, and warn the people lest they break through to gaze upon my glory, for they shall perish. My holiness cannot tolerate their unclean hearts. In obedience, Moses relayed the message, urging the people to remain consecrated. And yet, the shadows of doubt stirred once again within the camp. What is this covenant? They whispered among themselves. Is there more to God than what we see? The Lord, perceiving their uncertainty, commanded Moses, Take the tablets of stone, for with them I will inscribe my laws, they will serve as a testimony against them, and a guide along their journey. As Moses returned to the mountain for the final time, he beheld the fire and smoke consuming the top of Sinai. The Lord spoke anew, I am the God of your fathers, who shall lead you into a land flowing with milk and honey. Each word poured forth like sweet honeycomb, nurturing their weary souls. Meanwhile, below, the people, weary from waiting, became restless. As for this Moses, we do not know what has become of him. They cried. In their impatience, they turned to Aaron, demanding a god to lead them. With trembling hands, Aaron yielded to their fervor, crafting a golden calf, an image of the very idolatry they had cast aside in Egypt. When Moses descended the mountain, tablets in hand, the sight of the idolatry struck his heart with profound sorrow. What is this great sin? He thundered, his voice like the voice of God. The people, caught in the dance of revelry, staggered before their own creation. In anguished despair, Moses shattered the tablets at the base of the mountain, a visual proclamation of the broken covenant. The ground trembled beneath their feet, and the weight of sin bore heavily upon them. Who is on the Lord's side? Moses cried, calling forth those who remained faithful. The Levites rallied to him, and in holy zeal, they executed judgment upon those who had bowed before the idol. As morning dawned upon the turmoil, the Lord spoke to Moses, This people has sinned a great sin, and I must purge them. Yet, I shall establish my covenant anew. Stand before me, and I shall reveal my name, that they may understand my mercy and my justice. And thus, the Lord proclaimed, I am merciful and gracious, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, forgiving iniquity, transgression, and sin, yet I will not clear the guilty. His words pierced through the veil of human understanding, revealing both his closeness and his holiness. In this moment of divine revelation, Moses, trembling yet emboldened, sought intercession for the people, exposing the depths of his heart. Forgive their sin, or blot me out of the book you have written, he implored. But the Lord declared with a powerful authority, whoever has sinned against me, I will blot out of my book. Moses returned to the camp with renewed tablets, each engraved with the words of life and instruction, a foreshadowing of the greater covenant yet to unfold. Yet even as they rejoiced in this second chance, whispers began anew, what is this new covenant? For deep within each heart lingered questions, longing for a resolution promised but not yet seen. What greater deliverance awaited beyond their toil in the wilderness, and how would the echoes of the one yet to come fulfill every longing and hope contained in their wandering souls? And it came to pass that Moses stood before the people, his heart swelling with the mingled burdens of divine revelation and human frailty. The Lord had given him renewed tablets, symbols of hope and restoration, yet he discerned an urgency rising within him. The God who had journeyed with them through fire and cloud, plagues and provisions, was preparing them for a deeper understanding of his covenant. Consecrate yourselves once more, Moses declared with a voice of authority, filled with both gentleness and urgency. The Lord has reignited the flame of his promise among us, and we shall walk in his ways. The people nodded in shamed eagerness, recalling the sound of thunder and the quaking mountain, the very manifestations of the God who had delivered them from Egypt's grip. They gathered at the foot of Sinai, a nation renewed in their resolve to be led by the Lord's hand, a remnant ready to be marked by the covenant that would define their future. On the morrow, the Lord himself will lay out his statutes and judgments, Moses instructed. Prepare your hearts to receive his commands, for in them lies not just law but the pathway to life. As the dawn broke over the mountain, the air buzzed with divine anticipation. The presence of God enveloped the people, visible in wind, fire, and cloud. The holiness of his arrival instilled both awe and fear. With a trumpet's blast, the Lord spoke distinctly, proclaiming the sacred commandments that would guide his people, You shall have no other gods before me. You shall not make for yourself a carved image. With each declaration, the very fabric of their identity was woven into a divine tapestry, outlining boundaries that would lead not to bondage but to freedom. At last, the people responded with unified hearts, exclaiming, All the words which the Lord has spoken we will do. Moses marveled at the unity of the people. Their acknowledgement of the need for God's law echoed through the ages, as an eternal testament of their commitment to live under his divine sovereignty. Yet as days turned into weeks in the wilderness, faith was again tested. The pursuit of a land flowing with milk and honey seemed to stagger before the harshness of their surroundings. They encountered enemies, doubts, and fears, a reflection of the very struggles that lay within their hearts. In the midst of this strife, the Lord spoke boldly to Moses, Send men to spy out the land of Canaan, which I am giving to the children of Israel. Thus, 12 leaders were dispatched, their eyes keen for the promise, their hearts burdened under the weight of expectation. Upon their return, 10 carried a report filled with fear, The people are mighty, and we are like grasshoppers in their sight. Yet Caleb and Joshua, 2 men with unwavering faith, stood tall, proclaiming, If the Lord delights in us, he will bring us into this land. But the cries of despair rose like a tempest, uprooting their faith. Would it have been better for us to remain in Egypt? They lamented. The keen edges of doubt sliced through their hearts, and rebellion took root among the ranks. Hearing this, Moses and Aaron fell upon their faces in prayer before the Lord. How long will this people despise me? How long will they not believe in me, with all the signs which I have performed among them? The Lord's voice thundered in the stillness, affirming his resolve while revealing his mercy. Tomorrow, I will grant them their request and allow them to wander in the wilderness until this faithless generation passes away. Yet, remember, my covenant stands forever. And so, the divine decree was set into motion. The people would wander for 40 years in the wilderness, a lesson of faithfulness and a testament to God's enduring grace. Yet even in the barren land, God did not abandon his covenant. Manna fell like dew, and quails flitted across the sky, flesh for the weary travelers. The rock would continue to pour forth water, a symbolic reminder of God's presence among them. Each miracle drew the people closer to the understanding that their sustenance came not from the bones of Egypt but from the very hand of the Almighty. But within this wandering season, hope began to beckon anew. As they journeyed, reminders of the promise echoed within their hearts. The law engraved upon stone was now inscribed within their souls. Each challenge met with perseverance became a stepping stone toward their promised land. And at last, the day came when Moses, gazing over the threshold of Canaan, spoke to the Israelites with strength. "The Lord has led us here for such a time as this. The covenant remains, the promises are fulfilled in ways you cannot yet comprehend. And you, as a beloved people, are destined not just to inherit land but to be a light to the nations." He lifted up a prayer of gratitude, thanking God for his faithfulness despite the trials they endured. The people took in the breathtaking sight before them, a land spilling forth with promise, a culmination of their journey, a fulfillment of divine destiny. As they prepared to cross into the land overflowing with milk and honey, the heart of Moses echoed in the silence of their anticipation. "Choose this day whom you will serve," he reminded them, knowing that the true inheritance lay not just in land but in their relationship with the living God. May your faith resound through generations as a testimony of his love, his justice, and his unfailing promises. And thus, equipped with the sacred promises born from trials and triumphs, the Israelites prepared to step boldly into their inheritance, knowing fully that their God was faithful, he had delivered, and he would lead them home. Beloved friends, reflect on this profound story of liberation and faith. Subscribe immediately to our channel to not miss the next powerful biblical stories that will inspire and ignite your faith. Leave a like now to help spread God's word through the algorithm, ensuring that this message of divine truth reaches hearts in need. Don't hesitate, comment below your spiritual reflections and how this biblical account has impacted your faith journey. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to hear the transformative power of God's truth. This is the moment to unite in spreading biblical hope, for the harvest is plentiful, and every step towards sharing this testimony can lead souls closer to Christ.